Hi everyone, Coach Sullivan here again from MGS Coaching Football. First of all, I hope you subscribe to my channel. Secondly, I just concluded my 38th year coaching football, of which I was a defensive coordinator, but I've also been an offensive coordinator, special teams coordinator. I've been a head coach at both the collegiate and high school levels. So, what I'd like to talk to you about today in this presentation is one of our 3-4 fronts. So we keep 3-4 personnel. We only have three guys with a hand in the ground, but it's versus a 10 personnel, 10 formation. And this front allows us to have a six-man box. Okay, six-man box. So this is what we call our split fronts, 3-4, but split front versus what we call 10. That's personnel Detroit, 2x2, Toledo, two wide receivers. It's open on both sides, but 3x1, right? Three wide receivers with a split end opposite, which we call Toledo. Okay. And so the split rules versus both 10 Detroit and 10 Toledo, I think you're going to find are identical. So I've written them on purpose under both to emphasize that point. So in the split front, the rover, who's the outside linebacker that typically is on the tight end, and we keep that kid in because he's now part of the front. He goes into the boundary. See, this is a ball on the hash front. Okay, if the ball now the ball's on the hash a lot more than people realize. If you don't actually keep track of that and chart it for tendencies, and to me, it's a missed opportunity. But quite frequently throughout the course of every football game, you'll find the ball starts off on one of the two hashes. And so, because of that, we like to utilize this front split when the ball is on the hash. We do not use it when the ball is in the middle of the field. And just for point of reference, if the ball, it's not always perfectly on the hash, but if the ball is a yard, maybe two at the most inside the hash, we'll also use this front. But I always argue if my guy in the box, my spotter, the eye in the sky says, "Coach, I'm not sure," then we say the ball's in the middle of the field. Okay, so this is a ball in the hash, six-man box front versus spread formations. Okay, so starting with that premise, Rover's part of the front. Rover goes into the boundary. You kick the front to the big field. The backer stays left, Mike stays right, which is consistent in our five-man box packages, our base 3-4 front 50. When they hear 10, it's even 10 is the call. Even, that's the buzz term. Okay? Backer left, Mike right. The dime goes to the lizard riff. In this case, when it's Detroit, it's automatically to the big field. Okay? This is why he's called field. Field corner goes big field. Ball's in the hash, automatic, big field. It doesn't matter the call. We could be in our base 50. We could be in split. Doesn't matter the call. Ball in the hash, field corner goes to the big field. Free safety goes to the big field. Okay? Boundary corner, that's why he's called boundary. Goes into the boundary and the whip with him. Whip stays on the hash, as you're going to see. Ball in the hash, whip in the hash. So that's how we do it. And we tailor our personnel to meet those positional needs. So now watch, before I even get to the illustration, split versus 10 Toledo, because you don't always know if they're going to be in Detroit or Toledo. And I'll go through what happens when they MAC motion from one to the other. Rover's still into the boundary. See? Consistent. I didn't say it, but that means to kick the front to the big field. Backer and Mike are the same. Backer left, Mike right. Dime goes to the lizard rip, which now, right, it could be, in this case, it is to the big field, but I'll go over what happens when formation's into boundary if it's a rip, and we still call it rip if fib formation's into the boundary. Three receivers, we still call it that way, okay? That gets our dime to where they need to be. The field corner and the free safety go to the big field, whether the three receivers are to the big field or if they're into the boundary. They go to the big field. Okay, hopefully we're following the theme here. And the boundary corner goes into the boundary again. One or three receivers is irrelevant. And again, whip on the hash. Now, if there are 3 receivers, formation into boundary, there's a one little tweak, as you'll see. Okay? So with that background, again, consistent. Split front versus 10, everybody knows the rules how to line up. Okay, and the 2 formations that we see are Detroit and whether they're split 5 yards, whether they're split 10 yards, whether they're out there, it's Detroit. Okay, and we teach our dime the same rules. Okay, checks orbit if he's wider than 5. Boom, done. All right. So in each case, I have the ball on what we call the right hash. Sorry, I went off screen. What we call the right hash. Okay? Left hash, big fields to the right. In this case, ball's on the right hash, big fields to the left. That's the BF. Big field. Okay? So again, when we signal, whoever has that responsibility shows the 10 card, our guys say even and then 10. And they say it just so it's heard. It's right. Some guy might be tying his shoe. There's so many variables here, right? Even, that just sticks back of Mike. Boom. Right? Left and right. And in this case, as I went through everything else, ball on the hash, the secondary sets itself immediately. Okay? So when the ball's on the hash, when they do the little scrum, field and free safety are on the big field side of it, whip and boundary are on the boundary side of it. Okay, when we talk about that scrum, you have to see my numerous presentations. So here's how it works. Okay, when they come out in Detroit, 2 by 2, the Liz or Rip goes to the big field. Okay, that's a standard rule also. So again, everything stays the same. You can't have a rule for this and a different rule for the same situation for that, and then a third situational rule for. You got to come up with a set of rules that apply to everything you do. Okay? The only difference in the split front from our base rules is and it's consistent, when the row is a part of the front, means he's on the first level, okay? Then he follows the rules as it relates to the front. Okay? So rover goes into the boundary. He stays in his 2-point stance. He's in what we call a light 5, which means I have him shaded, but his inside toe is on the tackle's outside toe. I don't want him getting any heavier than that. Okay, there's still a mismatch there size-wise, so I don't want to, complicate the issue by putting our guy in a bad situation and getting him too heavy. Tangible landmark, toe on toe. Again, something else consistent. Kicking the front, the defensive end is now in a 3, the nose in a 1, end in a 5. Boom, done. Okay? Both linebackers are in what we call head-up alignment on the tackle. Head up. So when I say to them, again, don't try and match the feet of the tackles or their toes. Just get your feet normal width, okay? Still going to be inside foot up, that little bit of a stagger. But there, I just say, you line up your face mask on the face mask of the tackle. That's good enough, okay? So the backer, if the big field's left, the backer's going to be the 31 technique. If the big field was the right, the Mike's going to be the 31 technique. Okay, so the backer to the big field's the 31, the backer into the boundary. So in this case, it's the Mike. If the ball on the left hash, it'd be the backer. They're what we call a 71. They're outside. They're part, believe it or not, of the force. He's got a lot of protection here. All 3 offensive linemen are covered, because it's still sky support. Okay, whip gets 12 yards on the hash. It's sky because he knows he's got a little bit of help from his Mike. In this case, backer if it was on the left hash. All right, same alignment rules. 1 by 7 Oscar for the corners. Free safety is 1 by 12 Ike on number 2. No wider than 5, right? Boom, done. Orbit. Okay? So now, the first thing I'm going to do is what we do with our players. We're going to teach the kids, and I'm going to teach you how you line up to the Toledo big field first, and then show you how we adjust to it with a Mac motion. Show you how we adjust from Toledo back to that formation with the motion. And then the last thing I do is I'll put the three receivers into the boundary fib, formation into boundary, and how it's very easy to do. You're not breaking any rules, just one little tweak. Okay, and it involves the whip. Woo! All right, so down here, gun Toledo, right? Ball's on the hash, so automatically, everybody knows, Rover's into the boundary, front kicks to the big field, so they kick left. Mike knows he's going to be on the head up on the tackle 71. Backer knows in this case he's going to be head up on the tackle 30. So they can call all that out even before they know whether it's Toledo or Detroit, whether it's the big field or fib. Okay? Beautiful. Here's the automatics. Okay? Automatic. China puts the dime in the opposite of what he does normally, which means he never gets wider than 5. China breaks all those rules. Okay, it's on the other side of the world. That's why we say China. It's the opposite. It's the other. It's the other hemisphere. It's on the opposite side, time zones, everything. It's opposite. So this is a breaker. It's a key breaker for the offense. Now, all of a sudden, the outside linebacker is not only outside of number 2, so he's potentially really wide, but he's also up as close as he can be. We give him the heels of your defensive end so you don't line up off sides. But he lines up outside of number 2, which he never does that. Okay? So we don't say the word China. We just teach our kids that's what it means. You're going to be in China. Anytime you hear check Pittsburgh, check Pittsburgh, check Pittsburgh, again, you'll have to see that presentation. It's a different way that we can play a 3-by-1. So I'm not going to go through the rules of Pittsburgh here. Okay? But I think you'll get kind of a hint. The corner field in this case stays 1-by-7 Oscar. Now the outside linebacker's outside shade of number 2. And the free moves up to 1-by-8 Ike inside of number 3. And the whip on the hash is going to have eyes on number 3. But that's another presentation. Okay? So that's what we call check Pittsburgh. And check Pittsburgh puts the dime in an outside alignment on number 2. Which, again, he never does unless he hears check Pittsburgh. Okay? And if you have to, if the kid's just not getting it and you have to make the China call or signal it with them, feel free. We've done that before using a signboard. It helped. And all the bottom line is at the end of the day, your kids know what they're doing, and that's where we come in as coaches. All right? So everything stays the same. The boundary's in an outside press, bails on the snap. Okay? So again, the rules stay the same for everybody. Right, I went through it with you. It's so simple. Now I want to talk to you about how do you adjust, okay? And so what we call this is Mac motion equals wide receiver across formation, right? Motion across, Mac, motion across, Mac. One simple little buzzword. You can't get into, it's the wide receiver running. You don't have time, right? Mac, 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 Mac. Everybody knows what that means. Motion across, right? Acronym. So up here, okay, first scenario, Mac motion in the boundary to the big field, right? Rabbit, 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 rabbit. As soon as he starts moving, the screaming rabbit. And as we teach our kids, first of all, that's the alert that there's a receiver in motion. But the speed of the motion, if he is hauling butt to get across the field, right, that's an indicator. Watch how simple the adjustment is. Rabbit, rabbit, rabbit. Safeties can see this, especially the whip first, so he just screams, Check Pitt. We just shortened Pittsburgh to Pitt. It's easier. Pitt, check Pitt, 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 Pitt. And if need be, the free might scream if the dime isn't moving. China, China, China. So now all that happens, he widens out. He moves down to the 1x8 Ike, right? Boom, boom. And that's all she wrote, baby. Right? Put you into this position here. Two guys move. Boom, done. Pretty easy, right? Mac motion the other way. So now it's going to go from 2 in the big field, motioning into the boundary. So this will bring us into the fib. Right? This will bring us into the fib. Rabbit, rabbit, rabbit. Same thing. Woo! Rabbit, rabbit, rabbit. He's screaming across. Oh, kind of erased my dime there for a second. Screaming across the formation. So we do check from Liz to Rip because Form A, 3 receivers, right. That's still going to be Rip. Okay? So just check Rip, 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 Rip. This brings in what we call the rope. The rope. The whip now comes down. I'm going to put them in blue so I keep everything up there. The whip gets into the China or outside alignment of number 2. Okay? The free gets 1x8 Ike of number 3. Because that's what we do versus Toledo in the split front. And so now the dime comes back and is 2x12 off the single edge. Okay? So the dime, that's not there. The dime's now the safety. This is a defensive back anyway. He's 2x12 off the edge. Now the field rolls up into that outside shade alignment. And so you're set, you get to this alignment versus Toledo by roping the adjustment. That's all we do. Okay? So let's just pretend for a second. This is the big field. Okay? So now the ball's on the left hash. Big field's to the right. So all that happens is this will be the boundary. Dime goes to the Liz or Rip. This will be the whip. Now the free safety's 2x12. And the field corner is 1x7 because remember, they go to the big field. So there's where it is should they come out and go formation into boundary. And then, right, let's just finish the cake here. Either 2 or 3, that doesn't matter. I didn't mention that before, but either one of the motions, we treat it the same. We'll just say it's number 3. Rabbit, rabbit, rabbit. So we motions to big field now. So we got Detroit ball in the hash. It's going to check from Liz to Rip, right? Because now Detroit, Liz or Rip to big field. So now what happens, right? Let's finish the rope. He's going to roll down now and play the outside linebacker. He's going to replace there. Now he goes back on the hash just like it started up here. You see how this works? I know eventually it gets a little messy, but that's why I got the blue in there. They just replace each other. That's the rope. And this is how we teach it. This gives us a 6-man box to defend against the run when the ball is on the hash versus these 10 personnel Spread formations 2-2 Detroit, 3-1 Toledo. Okay? So, as always, as I said at the beginning, and as always, I hope you subscribe to my channel. As always, and I hope you have any questions, you reach out to me at CoachMJSullivan at gmail.com because, as always, I'd love to talk football with you.